Stubbornly refusing to reinvent the formula after a 5-year absence, Borderlands 3 sticks to its guns and manages to outdo itself. Refined movement and shooting, a legion of enjoyably challenging enemies, and the single largest arsenal of mechanically diverse firearms I've ever seen in a video game easily make this the best in a great series of co-op shooters. What's more, this is an adventure I could see myself happily undertaking again from scratch, with a new character and a fresh group of friends.
It's a beautiful day, full of opportunity. So, who's coming?
You'll arrive on the familiar planet of Pandora to find it overrun by bandits and on the verge of total collapse. So, normal. But this time around, you aren't stuck on Pandora. You'll venture to several varied and jaw-droppingly beautiful planets, and each stands out visually in a way the series rarely has before. Every nook and cranny is generously littered with chests, collectibles, and amusing Easter eggs that make exploration almost as fun as combat. The Vault Hunters that you and your team of up to 4 will take control of have had their versatility boosted by a choice between 3 different action skills, selectable at the top of each notably beefed-up skill tree. Except for Mose, who gets to customize her mech's loadout. There's a lot of neat details to sort through when it comes to your class's progression, like skill augments and anointed items, and I go into more specifics here in my written review. The cast of supporting characters found in these cosmic backwaters candidly edge out the generic but somewhat amusingly villainous Calypso twins when it comes to delivering a compelling story.
What is up, brothers and sisters? God Queen Tyrene coming to you live. We got something real special for you today.
For instance, interacting with the figureheads of the Atlas, Maliwan, and Jacobs megacorporations provided a wonderful marriage of storytelling and gameplay that gives extra depth to the weaponry you collect.
Despite being a Jacobs, I ain't much with a rifle.
Playing with friends is better than ever thanks to the new ping system. Cheers, Apex, which can be used on enemies, items, or the environment. But the co-op feature that really stands out in 2019 is the ability to share or trade weapons and other gear after you've used them, since they don't bind to your character when equipped. It's also worth noting that your team can choose to play in cooperation mode, which turns on instance loot and forgiving level scaling, or co-opetition mode, which disables scaling and lets the fastest player hoover up all the items like in the old days. Perhaps Borderlands 3's greatest triumph is that it never felt monotonous over more than 30 hours. I kept waiting for the energetic pace at which new enemies, weapon archetypes, and mission structures were introduced to slow to a grind, but it never did. For starters, if your Echo 3 mission log didn't clearly label them as such, I would have had a hard time distinguishing Borderlands 3's side missions from the main story missions. And I absolutely mean that as a compliment. The optional tasks divvied out by the denizens of Pandora and its neighboring planets are creative, enjoyable, and rarely the kind of formulaic, repeatable filler that's usually associated with side fare.
You are the best Vault Hunter. Wow, after me. So you are second best, which is still pretty good.
There are definitely still some fetch and kill quests, but there's almost always a twist that makes them feel unique. And when there's not, Borderlands 3's self-deprecating humor makes light of that situation. My absolute favorite side missions were the ones that completely sidestep convention for a quick laugh. For example, Tyrene Calypso offering up a legendary weapon if you simply kill yourself, and the catch that this decision comes along with had me chuckling for hours after the fact.
Wow, you actually did it! You are a total gun slut.
Borderlands 3's incredibly diverse and constantly surprising arsenal absolutely steals the show. The illusion of infinite firearms is sold much better than ever before thanks to the sheer number of randomized elements with significant and legitimately unique effects. This meaningful weapon variance is further helped along by a greater emphasis on what differentiates each manufacturer. For instance, all Vladoff weapons can switch between 2 firing modes, like a Gatling gun that toggles to a grenade launcher, while Children of the Vault weapons don't need to be reloaded at all, but can overheat. What's most impressive about Borderlands 3's arsenal, though, is how these weapons look and feel. It's the delightful little touches, like cocking the hammer on a revolver, the red-hot smoking barrel of a shotgun, or a bolt chattering away on an assault rifle. These are the types of details I'd expect to see on handcrafted models, not procedurally assembled ones. In the same vein, many weapons feel fantastic with the mouse and keyboard on PC thanks to pronounced recoil and crisp sound design. Then comes the creme de la creme of loot, legendaries. Like in Borderlands 2, these guns and gadgets fill out the upper echelon of the item table with handcrafted effects that are, in many cases, a celebration of how far Borderlands 3 is willing to go to be absurd and surprising. My favorites so far are the Laser Sploder, which spits out rockets and a laser at the same time, the Cloud Kill, which leaves enemies choking on corrosive fumes, and the Hellwalker, which is a dead ringer for the Super Shotgun from Doom. Without giving too much away, you'll square off against plenty of returning enemy types along with several new ones, totaling up to a creative and enjoyably challenging horde. Most critter fights are fun, even though they all feel functionally the same. Meanwhile, bandits and futuristic Maliwan troops do a great job of keeping you on your toes. Their squads get increasingly mechanically diverse as you get deeper into the campaign. Borderlands 3 is at its most hit or miss in the quality of its boss encounters, which, frankly, are all over the place. The good news is that the bulk of them are spectacular. There's the exemplary Agonizer 9000, who comes complete with crit spots, flaming vents to dodge, a massive saw blade to jump over or slide under, and even a second phase, which mixes things up further. And every other boss with major plot significance follows this great formula: precise telegraphs, challenging mechanics, and mostly avoidable damage. At the opposite end of the spectrum is Kilovolt, who covers the entire arena in unavoidable, mostly lethal electricity that can easily down a whole team at once. Worse, his electricity even zaps the smaller enemies that would otherwise give you a chance at reviving yourself with a second wind kill. What a headache. Your adventure doesn't end when the credits roll because Borderlands 3 has an endgame. Most notably, there's a Mayhem mode, which incrementally ups the difficulty and adds random effects to some enemies for greater rewards. After unlocking Mayhem mode, you'll also start earning all new Guardian ranks, which provide further stat increases and cool effects like increased loot luck after scoring a kill. Couple this with True Vault Hunter, aka New Game Plus, the Circle of Slaughter, better known as Horde mode, and the all-new Proving Grounds, which sort of resemble a non-randomized Diablo 3 Rift, and there are many enjoyable ways to skin the endgame cat. For all of the topics we couldn't fit into the video, like vehicles and duping, be sure to check out the written article on IGN.com. If Borderlands 3 is what happens when a modern looter shooter throws the longevity of its item economy and daily quests to the wind, then you can sign me up for Borderlands 4 right now. The sheer magnitude and diversity of its arsenal of fun and surprising weaponry is unmatched, and the striking amount of loving detail and variety packed into its energetic and replayable 30-hour campaign is what makes Borderlands 3 a high point for the series and the genre as a whole. If you enjoyed the review or have further questions, feel free to shoot me a follow on Twitter at Duggan. And for all things Borderlands 3, including our favorite guns, Easter eggs, and endgame guides, be sure to keep it right here on IGN.